everybody, Charlie Nerd 2 here, and welcome back to the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. We last left off, we were taking the bucket to various endings and seeing what's changed with the Ultra Deluxe new content, because the bucket is in fact new content. So let's go ahead and try this out.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Good,
said the
Go
bucket.
that way.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk.
I want to take that
Stanley
walkway, but
chose
let's
not
go to
to
the top
think about
first.
this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Yes, bucket.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again
not really
obeyed
dark.
blindly.
This one's dark.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
I didn't pick it up
Pick up
last
the
time.
phone, and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Oh, I can move around? I certainly can. I thought this was a cutscene. Jazz music. Candle. TV. Tiny kitchen. I'm clicking. It's not opening. Hello? Is there something I'm supposed to be doing? Bucket. Hello, Stanley. It's me, your bucket. Press X to take me to work with you.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Hey, bucket. Press L to take me back home with you.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Now what? Bucket. TV. I'm literally clicking on everything here. Oh, there's a bucket. Press P, because why not?
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think. It can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
It's my friend.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal.
F to ignore anyone in your life except me.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
You believe I'm real, don't you, Stanley? Press C to go back home.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Yes, it's a superior bucket. Press B to relive the same day over and over.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Press K to go home, to work, to home, to work, to home.
Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with
Bedroom.
the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
13.
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Whoa. Went off the deep end on the bucket. Go back to work, Stanley. All right. Oh, bucket is in a different location now. Should we not take it? Let's take it.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
This is different.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest, and this was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
Nope.
Was this better? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the
All right,
door
we're going
on
to
his
jump
left
off into the
to go back
catwalk.
to the meeting room,
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had
And go.
spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
But I didn't. I went this way. There's a thing that says no buckets past this point down here. If I remember correctly.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It
Yep.
says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket.
Is it, though?
Please, step in here for a moment.
Can you give me a video on buckets? Is this a bucket?
Now then, I'm going to run
Am
you
I on
through
a
some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm
stage?
showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a
Oh.
hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Okay.
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
Sure.
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Uh-oh. Let me guess. They're not. None of them are buckets.
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
No.
Incorrect.
That is a bucket.
This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Yes.
What? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
Do you guys make the farming simulator games? Another
Is
tractor.
this a bucket?
Yes.
Correct. This is a bucket.
What?
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Both. It is and isn't?
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
Yes.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket?
You are if you want to be.
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely.
No.
Okay, here we go.
But you don't know what a bucket is.
What happened? Is everything gone?
Yeah, because
Why
you
did
think everything is a
disappear?
bucket.
Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket? Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets.
Awesome. We're not
Yes,
buckets.
I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that.
I
Who
won't.
knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
I guess we want to restart again? Yep. All right, so...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another.
All right, we're going
thrilling
the
adventure
escape
together.
route.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
And
entered
the only
door
other
with
ending
that.
I know of is trying to take over the mind control device. So we'll try to do those two. Let's do escape route first. Wait a minute. That actually mentioned the little figurines. Oh, we didn't go down
Coming to a
here. Let's do that.
staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Aha.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figure and Marines. Very soon,
Figure
you'll
and
collect
Marines?
the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figure and Marines. None of us can.
Watch there not be a last one.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Oh no.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Yeah, because there's a bucket inside of me. Start over.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Is there a bucket here now?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was.
He just dropped the bucket on there.
This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Backflipped all the way. All right, just a couple of endings left that I'm...
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
I am missing one figurine.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest.
Okay, we're going to go escape hallway. There will be a reward for finding them all. Some were both red and blue. The red and blue doors. Beware the false prophets. This is like a whole thing about finding these now. Red room? Okay. Maybe if we don't take the bucket, we can go there?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
We're going to do this first. Taking the bucket changes the endings.
Office, Stanley was once again stunned
2845.
not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along?
Yes, the bucket knew.
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes.
This one takes the longest because we got to listen to the narration. Well, no, we don't, because we're not going into the mind control room. We're just going to go to the escape hallway. I wonder if it will take us to the behind-the-scenes kind of making of the game again. I would hope it would be something completely different due to the fact that we have a
Stanley and the
bucket with
bucket
us.
walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
We get the female
The door
narrator
behind
voice.
them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Indeed. Let's go. Come on, bucket. Okay.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be.
Meaningless?
To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death.
Should have
It
two
was a
there.
shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
The bucket welcomes you to the grand exhibit. You are standing at the precipice of knowledge. Much like a bucket itself, the human mind is frequently empty within, a cavernous void. But through use of the exhibit in front of you, the mind becomes full and enriched and substantiated. Knowledge of the bucket and its history is the only true knowledge we really have. Will you take what you learned here out with you into the world? Will you accept an open mind what may be challenging about the information in this exhibit? Will you change the lives of yourself and your loved ones as a result of this exhibit? Or will you turn a blind eye and continue to live as you were, in ignorance and darkness? Is this the same exhibit? It is not.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Two handles. Recklessly experimental. Inferno bucket. Allure and drove dozens of nations to war with one another in control of it. Billions died. Simple fact remains, no one can control a bucket. Worrying, negative forecasting, negative thinking, lack of assurance, vulnerability, size and strength of the bucket, coping strategies, holes, rest and relaxation, doing something you enjoy, stress, the level of water in the bucket. Ancient cave drawings about buckets. While we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind, we do not know how long. This cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of the practical uses of the bucket, by which time the bucket had already likely been around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity to be worthy of its treasures.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
The hanging bucket. This piece symbolizes a necessary relationship between bucket and humanity. However clear our grasp of the bucket may be, there is yet more that is always out of reach. This distance, inevitably, is for our own good. All right, let's dive. Oh, no, we can just walk out here.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The
Okay.
bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of
Let's
a
do
new
it.
world, a new vision for...
All right. So the last thing I can think of to do is not take the bucket with us. Try to get into the red and blue doors. And get the last Stanley mini stand.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay.
It was okay.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nope.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have
Hush, I'm looking
zero
for a mini
consideration
stand.
for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of
buckets
this,
beyond this
but I
point.
really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove
There it
that
is.
I'm on your side. And there it is. The last Stiggly
Stiggly Wiggly, that's
Savor
the
this
best.
moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
All right. Well, we found the figurines.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Sure, we'll go through the red door.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here.
Come on.
Running and running and running.
Let me
just
go
way
into
you're
the
doing
room
right
with the
now.
lights.
Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Loading screen. Yep.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with... No, wait. Where are you going?
I'm gonna jump off this
Oh, no.
staircase.
Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please,
I'll do this like
Stanley.
5 times.
No! Oh, no. No, what are you...
Wait a minute. It said there was a achievement for doing this. Let's try this. Nothing. Okay, so they did take that out. All right. I honestly think we're done. There's probably some more obscure endings, but I feel like we've done the majority of it.
Stanley, I'm
Whoa.
sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's
Maybe
just...
not.
It's those figurines. Those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one.
Hold
Wasn't
on.
it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness?
There's a mouse
Yes, I know we're
cursor up
supposed
there.
to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Okay. Memory zone may be it. What? This is missing. That was there before, right? Okay. This is...
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again,
Can I
Stanley.
collect it again? Does that screw you up that we have 7 out of 6 now?
And here was a second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
Boss's office,
Okay,
warehouse.
let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember?
Third one that I found was boss's office. We went down underground through here.
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here, behind the boss's office.
Yep.
It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything.
Of course.
Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room.
What?
Oh, well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
Pink room.
This was the 5th mini Stan, and this one was really something special. It was under the stairs. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
How he found it. By the narrator. What's that down there? It's mini stand number 5. Clip art. You found it under the stairs. Thanks for watching, emojis. Good job, narrator.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
Okay. Last one was in the
And then,
room.
Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
All right. Let's cool design. You're in the present.
And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, Memory Zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the Memory Zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Kinda lame, honestly.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the Memory Zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
Stairs.
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched? Yes, I love that video.
Getting so many figurines. What is this pink room? And why?
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
All right. What if we go to the warehouse? Because we did pick up one in the warehouse. Not loaded. Okay. Go ahead and grab the one in the pooper.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Collect them all. The jump circle.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite... Oh, yes, the two doors! Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
Okay.
Yes, I'm remembering something now.
Is this an indie?
I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Okay, they said one more run. Let's go ahead and do that, I guess.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Leaving the bucket. Meeting room
When Stanley
might be
came to a
different.
set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Reboot the
Yet
game
there was not
entirely.
a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Says reboot the game entirely.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any
2845?
human life. What could it mean, he wondered. Desperate for... Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Okay. This is new.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Reboot the game entirely. I'll have to try that after this run. Whoops, loading.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Okay.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Can I skip this?
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
234.
Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many
blacked
individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Fired. Alright, yeah, I guess we'll go through and do the peaceful ending again.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to
Fired,
believe
fired.
it couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control
427,
all
where we
this
at? There we are.
time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions.
everything seems the
happy
same
or
here.
sad or content.
So we're going to do a quick
Eating,
reboot
working,
reboot
all
of the
it
game
monitored and
altogether.
commanded from this very place.
So we're going to do quit to menu. I'm going to do a quit to desktop real quick. You guys are going to see a black screen. I'm going to start the game again as soon as Steam lets me. I'm going to let it sync first. There we go. Now let's see if this does change anything. All right. Please enter current time. It's 11:56 p.m. No, it's 10:56 p.m. Hang on, hang on. before we get started, can I just say something? Thank you for actually setting the clock both times you booted up the game. A lot of people don't take that step seriously. They just leave the clock set at 12 and call it a day. But you're actually taking the time to set the clock, and I appreciate that. That's how I know that you care about this experience. You're paying attention. I don't even have any way of knowing if the times you're setting are correct. To tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Since you've been so cooperative, next time you boot up the game and see the screen, just set the clock to your favorite time. Go ahead, pick whichever time you want, even if it's not the correct time. You've earned it. All right, I'll let you get back to the video game now. Okay. Still says 2. If we say begin the game, what happens?
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Click to skip.
Stanley worked for a company in a...
Boom. If we don't see anything... Alright, so we got an achievement that says welcome back. So it knows that we've rebooted the game.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Bucket.
A good bucket. A strong bucket. A humble bucket. A committed bucket. A bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that
Okay,
the
here's what we're going to
lounge was simply the
We're going to
place
go to the telephone and unplug it.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this no? Never mind. The bucket was wrong.
We'll run that out to completion,
Stanley
and
took the door
then
on
I
his
think
left
we're going to
to
call
go
it
back
quits.
to the meeting room,
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Alright, let's go unplug the phone and see what happens.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke.
Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete,
Name twice.
It's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." Let's practice screaming, "I'm Dunny with the funny" now.
Dunny with the funny.
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence and who very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Okay, that went very Starship
Goodness,
Troopers.
This video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
And let me guess, the lift will have the cage on it. Okay, I think we might be done.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
All right, so we're going to go back to the two doors. And
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
all right, I think that's it. What better place to end it than the original choice? The two doors. There may be some hidden endings here and there and some content here and there that I missed, but I think I've got the gist of the game, and I think I've played it till my satisfaction for completion. And if there are any little tidbits, feel free to spoil them now in the comments, because this is the finale. And I really enjoyed this game, the Stanley Parable Ultimate Mega Deluxe Ultra Super Edition, version 2.0. And yeah, very good game. I'm glad that I played it, and I'm glad that I played it blind. But as always, though, thanks for watching, and if you enjoy my content, please consider a like, a comment, and or a subscribe. Stay tuned for the next series. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.